All right. So my name is Emmanuel, and I take care of an HR vertical in the Middle East. And I also do a lot of assignments on learning and development and people empowerment. And one of the things that actually struck me the last few days is that the various requests that I've been having from different people on a platform where I can share my thoughts and what's going on with the world at the moment. So, in brief, I'm going to have I'm going to have a small announcement, or let me say a small explanation on what we're going to be doing today. I won't be addressing all your comments immediately, so please bear with me, because if I do, then I'm going to lose my thought process and what I want to share with you. And I can see some of you writing on the chat box. So just bear with me if you can. You will have to have a slightly strong network. And if you can't hear me, I suggest you use your earphones, because then I will be better audible, because I'm literally screaming my lungs out and my laptop is on the full, almost on maximum. So you're going to have to use your headphones if you can, if you want to hear me more better, if you want to hear me better. All right. So today we're going to be looking at the fundamentals of what is it all about stress, and what are the various things or that we go through in body and mind when we actually go through stress, and what are the repercussions of the negative mindset when you're actually going through stress, anxiety, and various other things that you go through during a difficult phase in your life. And this being one of the most critical aspects, or the critical times where the whole of mankind or the whole of humanity is facing something that is so, I wouldn't want to use the word disastrous, but something that is extremely challenging. And how all of this is played on, the minds of people, and how this is going to continue to play on our minds and our thought processes. So this is precisely what I would be sharing on this platform today. And that's what I expect you to bear with me as we go through different, discussions. And I know you're going to have a lot of questions, but what I would suggest is that if you can type your questions on the chat box, we can revisit your questions. Or better still, I would request all of you to have, a notepad, or if you're using any of your gadgets where you can have a digital notepad, or you have some way of noting down your questions. We can address your questions in the last 20 minutes of our webinar and address the most important questions. Now, in case you think this time is not enough, you want to personally reach out to me, you do have my contact details, so you can reach out to me. We can talk about that towards the end of the webinar. Right. So once again, for those of you who joined in a little late, my name is Emmanuel, and I take care of people management and talent management and people empowerment in the HR vertical in the Middle East. Ethnically, I'm an Indian. I started my career in India. I work with the hospitality sector, and what I'm doing right now is a passion that I've undertaken, which is to empower people. And this is totally free, and I'm not really, charging anybody. In fact, I'm working with organizations to invest my own time, efforts, and money to empower other people using this platform. So if you have any friends, if you have anybody who would like to join in, please share the details, and we'll be more than happy to accommodate, making the world more of a, a positive and an inclusive world. Right. That's a little bit about me. I'm going to start sharing my screen with you so that you can actually view the presentation that we have for today. Right. So the webinar today, I've actually termed it as managing stress and mental health positivity in difficult times, right? So that's our, I hope all of you are able to see the screen. Yes, can you do a can you do a heads up if you can? All right, great. So what you can see on screen is the presentation I've actually designed, which will in short cover the aspects of mental health. Now we do have some psychologists here. We have a lot of people who are in the field of HR who are joining us, and I really want you guys to add in your inputs. So you can actually give us more of your thoughts. Maybe there's something we can learn from each other. Now, I don't believe that I'm here because I know a lot of things, but I'm here because I have a few things that I can share with everybody else. And most importantly, I look towards learning from everybody else. And that's the most interesting aspect of what I do in my job and life. Right. So let me quickly go into presentation. Okay, so I'm calling this part of the presentation to say hello from the other side. The most important part is the terms and the words that we use. One of the things that I've realized is that we've been using the term social distancing to a large extent, and what actually we need to do in this time of distress is not distance yourself socially, but distance yourself physically from other people. So the by and large, the terminology that I've been looking up online and I'd like to share with you is using the term physical distancing and not social distancing. Because human beings are social, and you need that. If you look up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, for those of you who know Maslow's hierarchy, you know that one of the things that you want to do is to be mobile and to be active and to interact with people. So I don't feel that social distancing is the right term we need to use. Let's use the term physical distancing. You might ask, what's the big deal? But I always have felt that words make a very important impact in the psychological world. And the words we use, the words we receive in speech from others, all of this make a very, very big impact on our minds. So that's physical distance and not social distancing. We still need to socialize. We will socialize whether we are virtual, digital. I mean, if you can send, if you can send satellites into space and land on the moon and Mars, I think human beings can do much more than just, being away from each other and not know how to interact. So that's social distancing. Now, as we progress forward, what are we going to be looking at this webinar? By the end of the webinar, you will be able to understand actions, thoughts that probably will help you to uplift your mental state of being and implement actions, and how to stay positive, and that's something we'll be looking at. And then we'll also look at understand what is negativity bias, its impact on our daily lives. Psychologists out here will know what I'm talking about already. Why we talk about a lot of things that we talk about are negative, and why that impacts our psychological thought processes. That's something we'll be looking at. We'll also have an insight into how you can manipulate your subconscious mind, and what is the subconscious mind and why is it important to do that? What is the difference between the conscious and the subconscious? We'll be looking at. We'll also look at how to comprehend the meaning of stress. Okay, what is stress and why is stress used? Why is it so important for us to understand the meaning of the word stress? That's something we'll be looking at as well. I wouldn't be able to look at your the chat box right now. I know some of you are typing comments and all of that, but just bear with me. We can address your questions in just a little while. Okay, so what's our agenda today? Let me take you through what we're going to be looking in our agenda. We talk a little bit about how to develop an attitude of gratitude. All right. Most important aspect is our attitude. I've always believed that more than anything else, what defines you is your attitude. And when you know that you can manage it, gratitude, you can do a lot of other things within your life. And maintaining that, a lot of people talk about maintaining positivity and how to become positive. But one of the things that they don't tell you is that getting positive is not very easy, right? And just by reading a few motivational quotes or just by reading a book on how to be positive is not going to help us. If that was the case, I think all of us would be in a much better mental state than we are in today. And all of us would know how to cope with this kind of a situation, and things like that. So we'll be looking at what are the fundamentals that you can do in order to reach a state of positivity. So that's an attitude of gratitude. That's what I call that. The next thing we'll be looking at is understanding the power of your subconscious mind. All right. Like I said, you have a conscious mind and then there is a subconscious mind. We'll be talking a little bit about why is it important to understand your subconscious mind, because that plays a very, very important role in your thought processes. We'll talk a little bit about stress and the term well-being. We speak about being healthy and what is it required to stay focused on our health. And health is always something that people refer to as the physical aspect of staying healthy. What they forget is that being healthy is not only the physical aspect, but it's also the mental attributes and the mental aspect that makes us more positive and healthy. We'll talk a little bit about what is anxiety and depression. I can proudly say that I have a lot of information on this because I have been dealing with a little bit of anxiety and depression myself. And I have been dealing with people who go through anxiety and depression. And there's no harm, because we'll be looking at how to deal with anxiety and why is it always treated as a negative term, because anxiety is supposed to be very natural. So we'll be looking a little bit about that. One of the things that I recently learned in one of the stress management sessions was there is a questionnaire. There's a very, very basic questionnaire that was developed by Mayer in Penn State University in the United States, where it was talked about developing a basic questionnaire to find out how you manage things that worry you. How good are you when you get worried about something in life? So that's something. We'll talk a little bit about managing stress. There's something called self-awareness. And I'm not sure how many of us know about self-awareness or its use. But it's very important to know what self-awareness is and how much do you know exactly about yourself. We'll be looking at that. We'll also look at emotional intelligence. Some of us may always refer to this term. If you've done any courses in the past, you would know what I'm talking about. Emotional intelligence is a term that is used in psychology. It is used in helping people understand how well are you aware of other people's emotions, and why is it important for you to always understand and respond in anticipation of what other people are going through or what their emotions are. So these are some of the basic topics we'll be actually looking at today, and the outline of what our webinar is going to look like. And these are some of the topics. Now, I'm sure you have questions that are revolving around your mind, but please keep them for the end. So that will help us on, getting through the last 20 minutes. All right. The first thing I'd like to ask all of you is, how do you start your day, right? How do you start your day? When you wake up, all of us don't feel the same thing every day. Every day you don't have the same emotions. There are days when you wake up and you have a lot of energy. You feel, okay, it's so good. It's a very happy day and I want to do something. And there are these days when you wake up and you just don't feel like getting up from the bed. You know that today I just don't feel like going to work. Today I just don't feel like doing that assignment that I wanted to work on. Or today I just don't feel like, going forward with the project that I'm working on, or something that you're doing. You don't have the energy or the momentum in you. So there are these days that you feel, and yet other days, there could be days that you're just, probably lazy. You don't know. But those days when you wake up negative, you will tend to notice that you absorb the negativity around you much more easily. It impacts you much more easier. Even the small things that usually don't irritate you tend to irritate you those days. And then you start reacting to each of this. You don't have control over your reactions. And then when you realize half the day is gone, you're still not going to feel any better, right? Because the way you started your day is still playing that role on your mind. And you don't know how to control it. You're probably going to go to bed with the same thoughts that came to your mind. Now, this is very common, when you probably are going through a phase such as what we're going through right now, which is going through a little bit of anxiety. A lot of people come up with theories such as the world is going to end. Oh my God, what are we going to do, right? And it's funny how that people who are otherwise very strong have also started feeling very weak at this time of what we are all going through. Now, coming back to how we start the day, one of the important things that you have to remember is that it's not easy to start your day positive every day. But what also plays a very important role is, what did you do the previous night? Or what have you been doing throughout the night, right? What are the thoughts that went into your night? Did you have a good sleep last night? One of the common things you'll see in American culture is people always ask you, did you sleep very well last night? And I've noticed this with a lot of my American friends, and they ask you this. The reason they ask you is if you slept very well, that means you're going to have a relatively positive day today. So that's one of the things that you have to probably look in. What did I do last night, right? Now, given the circumstances, the many things that we all do is we're going to probably be on our mobile phones. We're going to be on our laptops, watching videos, watching movies, talking to our loved ones, talking to people that matter. And I know that a lot of people have been telling me my sleep patterns have changed so drastically. I go to bed at 1, I wake up at 8 or 9 in the morning, and I'm still feeling drowsy. I don't know how to pursue the day, and I'm feeling so bored. I don't have the enthusiasm that I have otherwise. Let me tell you one thing. A friend of mine last week messaged me and saying, Emmanuel, you know what I do? I really get up in the morning like I'm going to work. I try to go to bed on time, and I get up in the morning and I dress up like I'm going to work, right? So I wear my clothes, I have a shower, I get ready, and I go and I sit in front of my laptop like as though I'm going to work. Just because it gives me the sensation, gives me an enthusiasm that I'm at work. The small things that you do go a long way. They do matter, because a lot of what you do is what your brain perceives, right? Now, if you're still going to be in your pajamas, wake up at 9 o'clock, and then you want to be enthusiastic, I don't think it's going to work very well, right? So you're going to probably have to see how you can program your day while you are in this period of wherever, in different parts of the world. We're all going through different things. We are probably going through a lockdown. We're probably going through a partial lockdown where you can step out. Some people can't even step out. Some people can work from home. Some people have to still go to work. So different people are going through different situations. But what I'm trying to say is that try to get your regular routine of life, even if you're at home, to keep it as balanced as possible. Because if you start doing that, you go to bed on time as early as possible. You get up and you start your day in the same way. And that plays a very important role. One of the terms I'd like to actually introduce to you is the term called the negativity bias. Psychologists here can help me out what this means. It is often proven by a lot of study and research that human beings have the tendency to mostly be negative, right? And you have the tendency to get negative far more easily than having to maintain your positivity. Now, this is not your fault. You're not alone in this. This is pretty much like a normal scenario. A lot of us are in this, all right? And this negativity bias is something where your brain tends to lean towards the negative aspects more than the positive aspects. And that in itself is a big problem, right? So that's why you find it so hard to beat the negativity, because it's just not you. And trust me, it's not that you're alone in this. We all feel like this every day. I don't wake up every day thinking that today is going to be the best day of my life. There are some days when the smallest things irritate me, and there are some times when I can maneuver or I can navigate through my emotions much more better. So the negativity bias is nothing but the focus on the negative aspects of life more than the positive aspects. And human beings are probably very good with, focusing on the negative aspect. Now, I want to ask all of you, how do you develop an attitude of gratitude, right? So what I've done on screen that you can see is develop two checklists, kind of a checklist. It's a very informal one. The first one is, what can I be thankful for? The second one is, what can I complain about? Years ago, I had a colleague who left the company abruptly, and we were working together. And when I realized that he actually left the job, he left the job very abruptly. He didn't have much to share. His exit interview was very plain and boring, and he didn't have much to share. But what actually happened was, we were cleaning up his desk after he left the job. And my boss and myself, we actually found a list on his desk. And what he had done was, he had divided a paper into two columns. He said positives, negatives. Positives of staying in this job and negatives about staying in this job. And then we saw the list he had written down so clearly. He had written down the many things that are great about this job and the many things that are really affecting him. And believe me or not, his negative list was probably 100% more than the positive list. It was almost double the number of negative aspects on this side of the list. And therefore, he obviously made the choice to quit the job. But what I would like for you to ask you is, when you ask you today is, the fact is that, what do you look at in life? Are you going to be thankful about what you have? Or are you going to complain about what you don't? Because these two play a very important role in deciding how you want to start your day. Every day when I wake up, and I have to tell myself, oh God, I have to go, I have this critical meeting. I have these people who are going to be causing, problems in the meeting. And I have people who are going to be probably not going to be supportive of something that I'm going to introduce. And then I ask myself, am I going to deal with this saying that I am confident about the situation? I am looking forward to, it's a beautiful day today. I have a great team that can support me. I have the tools for my job, and I know what I can present and bring to the table is going to add value. So I start focusing on my mind on the things that I can do rather than the things that I don't have control over, right? So that helps me to cope with the situation far better than the fact that I think about the things that I cannot control. Because that's when you start getting more negative. Oh my God, I can't control this, so therefore I'm going to get negative. So, and that really plays an important role. And when you actually think about the fact what you have, I tell people that even if you have a chance to be on this webinar today, you're one of the privileged people on this globe at the moment who's got probably a connection to a smartphone, who's got an internet connection. You know how to understand what people are talking. You can interact. You can comprehend information. You have the ability to do so many things. You can still sit at home and probably, this is a generalization. I'm assuming that you had your last meal with a lot of comfort and that you don't have to think about, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to have dinner tonight, or how am I going to afford to have dinner tonight. But there are so many millions of people today who don't know what they're going to be doing for the next meal. And trust me, this chaos is all over the world. Now, I designed this checklist for you. I'm going to be sharing formats of this after we finish the webinar. You can drop in a text to me if you want these tools. I've developed printouts and PDF formats that I'm going to be shooting out on email. I can send all of these documents to you on WeTransfer, and they'll be very useful to you. Let's go to the next part of what I wanted to share with you. There's a little bit of understanding about the subconscious mind. The mind has got two parts to it, right? The conscious and the subconscious. What happens many times? The conscious mind is the mind that you go through every day. You understand it. You know what is going through in your mind. You're aware of it. Now, this is called as a conscious mind. Now, deep within your conscious mind, there is another part called the subconscious mind. A lot of people don't understand this many times, but the subconscious mind is situated within your mind. Now, how do I know this, right? Because the conscious and the subconscious mind are constantly at work. Your conscious mind is at work when you are awake, but it's your subconscious mind that's at work when you're asleep or when you are not aware of what you're doing. What happens here? The conscious mind is like, if you've studied mathematics, you'll understand concentric circles, right? So the conscious mind is the larger, circle, and subconscious mind is the smaller part within that large circle. Now, when you are telling things to yourself, all of us have the habit of talking to our people or talking to ourselves. What we are doing is we're talking to the conscious mind. But when this happens, there are many chances that what is happening within the conscious mind is fed into the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind throws back these thoughts and reflections when you are probably not even aware, right? Now, this situation is described very well by a book, which is written by Dr. Joseph Murphy. It talks to you about the power of your subconscious mind. If you actually get an online copy, you can go and read about it. It's a brilliant book that I've read, and I think it makes a lot of sense to me, because we all think that it's your mind that is not negative, but what you do is you're feeding your mind with a lot of negative aspects or negative thoughts, or what you read a lot of on social media, what you talk to other people is going and registering inside your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind gets to work when your conscious mind is not working and throws back those thoughts at you. Now, this is what you call as dreams when you're sleeping, right? Many times you come across dreams of what you had been thinking about during the day. Of course, it's kind of wired, mixed in a very weird sense when the dreams reflect back at you. But what I'm trying to tell you is that your subconscious mind is something that should be under your control. Is it easy to do? No, it's not. But your subconscious mind is a total reflection of what you're talking to yourself, what you're telling yourself, what you read, right? The one thing that you open social media and all you can see is, oh my God, how many cases today? Or, oh my God, what's happening to the world today? Which country is going down worse than my country? Or what's going to happen tomorrow? That's what is constantly going on in your mind, right? And what you think about is what is going to be reflected when you wake up the next day as well. So if you look at what I've written here, your subconscious mind is like a memory tank, which has been put and is used to retrieve data. For those of you working in technology, you probably know what I'm talking about. You put data, you retrieve data. So your conscious mind is probably the channel through which your data is entering into your subconscious mind. And then you retrieve this data every now and then. And that's why you tend to feel more negative. So if you get a chance to go through this book, I would suggest you should probably grab your, a copy. This is an old book, but it makes a lot of sense. The next thing I would probably tell you is understanding stress. A lot of us probably use this word so often in our life. Almost every single day, we say, oh my God, I'm so stressed. Or, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have control over this this assignment, this project, or I don't have control over what my loved ones are doing. There are many things that can cause stress, right? But the one thing that you don't understand is that stress is natural. Okay, the stress is a natural coping mechanism, and that is why you feel it in your body. And if you are a person who's feeling stressed, you're not alone. There's a lot of us who are, feeling stressed, and that is pretty much absolutely okay to feel stressed. But the challenge is, how do you deal with that? Do you accept stress as a normal part of your life? Do you think that it's something that you can deal with? Or are you going into this, this whole state of saying, okay, I can't manage the stress. This is not within me. And then you start seeking help. And actually asking help is not something that is wrong. And that's something that I will be discussing in just a few minutes. Now let's look at this presentation slide that I have. Right on the right side, you see, I say this is the natural side. Stress is something that is natural. You got to know that all of us go through stress. And there's two types of stress. There's physical stress and there's mental stress. Mental stress can be more emotional and, and many other things, which I'm not going to get into. That's one thing. What are the causes of stress? The various demands of life, right? Now, the various demands of life, to a large extent, when you ask people, what are you mostly stressed about? They're always talking to you about how they're stressed about at home or at work, right? Because if you come to think about it, human beings spend about 1/3 of their time at workplace, right? And we don't realize how much of time we spend. And that's why, if you ask, the number one factor that people are stressed about is probably, by and large, is the demands of work. We all have bills to pay. We all have people to take care of, mouths to feed. And the biggest concern today, I think, for all of us is the fact that what's going to happen to my job in this whole scenario, this whole situation of what exactly is going on in the world. Where am I going to stand? That's one thing. That's a demand of life. Stress is also the natural mechanism of protecting yourself, right? So one thing you don't understand is that stress is something that is created in your body, in your brain, to protect yourself. Let's go back, a few hundreds, thousands of years ago, before civilization began. People were hunting, eating, man was living in caves, and all of that happened. If you studied the Stone Age and all of that, how did people protect themselves? You think people did not have stress at that time? Of course they did, because we've just evolved. But people did have the same level of stress at that time as well. So they had physical stress, the necessity to having to go find food for themselves, fend for themselves. They had to protect themselves from other attackers, from wild animals, from the weather, all of that. So people had a lot of stress in having to take care of themselves. But you know that why man has survived all through is because man is capable of adapting himself, right? And by man I mean mankind is capable of adapting himself to the various situations around. And that's why we're one of the longest living species, because we have been able to adapt and change and evolve and get ourselves to understand how we can still survive. Survival of the fittest, as we say, right? So now if you look at the last part of what I want to share on this slide is that not all stress is negative. Some of the stress, you have to understand, is good. Sometimes, that a little bit of stress is required when you go inside that meeting room and you have to present. You need a little bit of adrenaline rush. Or sometime when you're shooting, a lot of us are doing online videos and things like that. When you want to go digital or you want to do something today, you probably have a little bit of stress on how I'm going to get through to people. What are the messages I want to deliver to others and things like that. So these are some things that probably you will be going through as part of stress. But stress is, relatively natural. A lot of us are homemakers, or probably, sitting at home, taking care of people. You're probably not having a full-time job outside, but you have a lot of work to do, or a full-time job in the house. And that in itself can take a lot of stress. And if you are in the position of having to manage people or take care of people, so there's physical stress, then there's also emotional stress, there's financial stress. There's a lot of these kind of stress, because these are all probably, the various demands of life that we have set to some extent. And there's also what life and people ask of us. And there's no escape from it, but there's only ways to deal with it. I mean, if somebody says, oh my God, you have to escape from the stress, then there's only thing that you can do is to choose better, because a lot of stress that comes on us is because of the choices that we have made, right? A lot of things that we do, we always tend to blame people around us, people outside us. We tend to blame situations and circumstances. But the one thing that we don't understand is that why something has happened is because that I made a choice, right? I made a choice at some point. This consequence is because I made a choice. I made a choice to change my job. I made a choice to get married. I made a choice to have 2 kids. I made a choice to put my children in probably one of the most expensive schools. I made a choice to probably take up something less stressful. And I made a choice to build my house. I made a choice to move out of my country. We all make choices every single day, and we have the total liberty to make those choices. But the one thing that I don't really agree is the fact that we all tend to blame other people for choices that we make. And we say, oh, this is karma, this is destiny, this is that, this is his fate. Yes, there is amount of destiny. And if you happen to be somebody who believes in God or spirituality, I think that plays an important role as well. But the bigger, larger fact is that a certain thing is happening to you because of a choice that you had made previously. The only thing you can do though is to learn from those choices, right? That's why I always tell people, if you do it once, it's a choice. If you do twice, if you do it once, it's a mistake. If you do it twice, it's a choice, right? Because only once you can make a mistake. Twice, it's probably a choice. And if you do it just more than twice, then it then becomes a habit. So what do you do? The choices that you do, what you want to take, are going to decide your consequences. So your stress is probably because of certain choices that you have chosen to probably make in the past or in the present, or that you're going to be doing in the future, right? So these are some of the things that you probably will do. Now, what causes the stress? Okay, so this slide can tell you what are the different things that can cause stress. Home life and personal life. A lot of us take stress because of our personal lives. Now that could be anything to do. It could be your spouse, your partner. It could be the demands of your children. It could be the demands of your parents or your relatives or anybody there. It could be that annoying neighbor who thinks that he wants something from you, right? So this in itself could cause a little bit of a stress every day. So home and personal life is a part of a big stress. Money. One of the biggest things that drive us today is money. If you ask people, what do you think is the most essential commodity of your life? I think the number one thing that comes out is money. And how far do human beings go to earn that money? What do you put yourself through to get that bill, to get those bills paid, to get that lifestyle that you wanted, to buy that thing in the mall that you saw last week? I want the latest gadget. I want the latest mobile phone. Oh, I want that. Yes, but everything comes with a price, right? So you can't tell me that I didn't choose stress, because stress is something comes because of the many choices that we have made. I'm not saying it's 100% right, but look at the choices you have made. There are choices that you have made. If you are telling me my family is extremely demanding, that means you have probably given the opportunity. You have told people that I'm available for your demands. You have made yourself available every time to people. You have made yourself, you've put yourself out there. So you've told them that they can expect a lot of things from you, right? They can expect you to cater to everything that they're asking you. And then you go out of your way to do that. And then you tell, I'm stressed. What can I do to make this better? That's something you got to ask. Let's talk about life changes. Life changes probably, changing your job or moving out of one country to another or working through something that we're going through now. That's a drastic change in lifestyle, the way we work. Trust me, we will come out of this, right? Every day when I wake up, I tell myself, we will come out of this. This is not going to be forever. Okay, so if you're thinking that this situation has affected you, yes, we're all in this together. Nobody is alone. Nobody's alone. I don't know a single person across the world that I'm in touch with who's probably not going through something or who's probably not having a difficulty because of what we're going through right now. A lot of people have lost jobs and money and family and they're not able to travel. So many things. So life changes are bigger stress factors as well. Work stress is something I already told you about. There could be other reasons that are stressed. People have the general tendency to get anxious over situations that we will be talking about in a little bit, and things like that. So how do we actually name this? What are the different parts of stress that we go through? And you can probably type that and write that and keep it with you, and we can look at the chat box just after we go towards the end of the session. One of the things that I actually wanted to share with you is the fact that there is a story that I recently came across. And this story told me about how to be grateful. Okay, it's called the 10th Apple Effect, a story of gratitude. You can Google it if you have it, but you can also probably look at what I'm going to be sharing right now. It's this story that you can see on your screen. It says a story of gratitude. Briefly, let's go through what this is, what the story is all about. It says a hunter once lost his way, right, in the deep jungle. while he was chasing a deer. He used a lot of skills to navigate. He didn't have food to eat for 8 days. He started feeling so very hungry, and he didn't know what he would do. He could probably even eat an elephant at this point in time. I'm not reading the story line by line, but you can follow through. As he ate, he went ahead and he found a tree of apples, and then he was very happy. He was very joyful that he found a tree of apples. Now, as he ate the first apple, he thanked life. He thanked God. He said, wow, I'm so grateful that after 8 days, I've actually found something to eat. Then he had the second apple. Then he had about 10 apples to eat. And by the time he had reached the fifth apple, his hunger started decreasing. His necessity started decreasing, and so did his gratitude, right? So by the time he was on the fifth apple, he probably was not as grateful as he was when he got the first apple. Now, when he took the 10th apple, out of the 10 apples that he got, he did not feel very hungry. He really didn't feel like having a lot. And he didn't feel so very grateful like he felt in the first apple. Now, in economics, we call this as diminishing marginal utility. If you've actually studied economics at some point, you will understand this. That every time you get familiar with a product or a service or something that you keep consuming every time, you become less grateful for that, for that product or service in your life. And this is exactly what this apple teaches you. Just because you've had food all your life and today you have food on your plate, sometimes you forget to thank from where it came, or you forget to thank God if you believe in God, or you forget to be grateful for what you have in your life, right? It could mean anything. It could mean anything. When we have it all the time, we don't feel very grateful for it, right? We tend to complain about everything. And many of us, we would complain about the things that we even have. I have a great laptop, but it's not the best laptop. You know, I could go for a better Mac version. I have a great phone, but I think I can go for a better one. I have a great, I have a great this, but I can go for a better one. But do you have the gratitude every time that you are blessed with something? Do you actually think of what you have as a blessing that there are many people in this world that do not have? That this is what you need to, ask yourself. So I was quickly jumping back to, that story. And you need to understand that no matter how old you are, no matter how many days you've passed on this earth, every day is a blessing from somewhere. Everything teaches you, and every aspect is a lesson. And that's important for you to understand. So let's quickly switch back into our presentation right now. So understanding stress. Now let's understand what is the meaning of staying healthy. Well, many people say stay healthy. People have been saying stay safe, stay safe. I'm a little bored of this stay safe dialogue because I want something more to tell me how I can stay safe rather than just saying stay safe. But I take that as a good aspect, good intention. But let's see what we have in terms of understanding well-being. Well-being is the state of being comfortable, being healthy, and being happy. So if you tell me that you are not happy, but you are healthy, it's not right. It's not the correct form of how you have to stay healthy. Healthy can also be defined as a good state of being well in your physical, mental, and social well-being, and as a resource for living a full life. So look at the three important words: physical, mental, and social. A lot of us refer to health as the only physical aspect, but it isn't. Health is a combination of physical, mental, and social. So please don't tell me you want to distance yourself socially and then tell me that you are healthy. Distance yourself physically and not socially. Be in touch with the people that matter. Go there and make a difference to people. That is important. And spread the positivity. Tell people stay away from me physically, but don't stay away from me socially. That's important. All right. So that's a little bit about what are the things. Now I've kind of shortlisted what are the 5 important things that could make you feel healthy. The first thing is connect, right? Connect with people. I know you can't meet people. You can't be physical at this point in time. You can't be physically available for everybody, but you can connect with them virtually. The world's given you enough and more platforms today. A lot of us are not comfortable using Zoom, but you could use Skype, WhatsApp, etc., to connect with the people that matter. A lot of people sent me messages who have not messaged me for the last 2 or 3 years and said, I'm just checking on you if you're all right. It was a great gesture. I felt very good, you know, and people who had stopped speaking to me, went out of touch, really connected to me through this situation. And it was a nice thing, actually. And the other thing is give, right? A lot of people get pleasure in receiving, but for me, there's no more pleasure than giving. I don't want to sound like a saint, but all I'm trying to say is that whatever I can give, I do. I mean, I could not probably give a lot of money, but I can give a lot of knowledge, which I think I do to some extent. I can give a lot of, I can spread a lot of positivity. I'm there for a lot of people when they want to talk about issues and just listen sometimes. I've been told that I'm not a great listener, but that's something I'm still working on, but that's all right. But you tend to give, you can give anything that you think that will make other people feel positive or happy. Be active, right? One of the things that you need to understand is that, yes, you are probably kind of inside closed doors at this point in time in your life. You don't have a lot of social life, but try to keep yourself active. I know a lot of people are junking on food and they stop exercising, no gyms, they can't go out for a run. There's a lot of activity that you probably are not doing. But I know, again, there are a lot of people who are still doing their workouts at home, who are still glued to their, to some kind of an online app where they can do yoga at home. They're probably doing some kind of meditation. They're doing a little bit of half an hour workouts and cardio, etc., etc. Keep yourself active. All right. Ensure you get up on time. I know you have the liberty to not wake up on time in this period, but if you do wake up, give yourself, start an early day, trust me, it makes a lot of difference. Take notice. One of the things that people don't do is taking notice. Like I said, gratitude. Take notice of the good things in life, right? Adding another day in your life in itself is a big deal. Human beings survive. We struggle to actually want to be living every single day. So if you're given another day in your life, that's a blessing. Take notice of that. Appreciate the great food your mom is making for you sitting through when you're in their house. But appreciate the kind of things that your spouse or your partner is doing right now for you. Take notice. Take notice of what the small drawing your child is doing. You probably didn't have time to do that when you were running busy in your busy schedule. You probably didn't have time to spend with your friend, find out how it was. So take notice of these things. Take notice of what people do for you. Appreciate the small things. People say that, oh, don't say thank you, it's okay. But no, you have to be grateful for what people are doing to you to make you feel better, right? It's very important. I mean, that's extremely important. The other thing I believe is keep learning. Keep learning as much as you can. Human beings tend to learn from the time you're born till the time you die. Every experience is a lesson. Every person who comes into your life teaches you something, right? And that in itself is a lesson for life. And when you learn these lessons, ensure you don't do mistakes that you probably did in the past. Another thing to keep yourself, positive. What are the promises I got to make to myself? It's not just about others. Staying positive is firstly about me, right? So let's start with the kind of words that we use, the tone of voice that we use many times. Sometimes we say things we don't mean, and that can cause a lot of negative impact. Ensure we cut down on the negative news. Do not absorb a lot of negative news. When you know that, oh my God, I'm panicking about reading a certain news article, stop there. Don't go reading further into that article, because what that's going to do is not only going to give you information, it's also going to have a negative impact. Ask yourself, is this news that I'm reading important to me? And how can I still be positive after reading this, right? A lot of us now get into negativity. We start blaming each other. I know people are putting up articles of hatred and people are angry, people are frustrated, right? But this is the time we come together. This is not the time that people divide ourselves. This is the time you come together, every single human being, regardless of your religion, your caste, your nationality, your race, your gender. Everybody is going through a difficult phase. So why do you need to divide yourself or spread more hatred out there? How is that helping you, right? What is that news? When I click that message forward to my friends, is it something that is important? Is it a positive news that I'm forwarding to people? Why do I need to forward this WhatsApp or this Facebook news article? Does it make any difference? Is it going to change the world? Ask yourself that question before you click your button on your phones and laptop when you want to forward that message. Do you know that what you're forwarding is verified news? Do you know that this is actually right? Ask yourself that. Because what you could be sending other people is going to create a lot of panic for other people, fear, anxiety. And what are you getting out of that? Are you going to be happy that other people are scared? I don't think so. And then let's come to the other point. Be kind to your mind. See, one of the things that, one of the psychiatrists told me was that your mind is a very fragile, it's a very soft thing. We don't understand how fragile our mind is. And that's why we put ourselves through so much of stress. Be kind on yourself. Only then you can be kind to other people. You realize that when people are frustrated, they're probably frustrated with themselves, right? Last point, of course, I already told you, not spread hate, avoid spreading anxiety or any kind of fake news, articles, videos. At this point in time, it's not something that is very healthy. Did I miss something? All right. Understand that you don't have the control over everything. You don't have the control to do something about the present, but you do have control over the future. You can't control what happened in the past, but you can learn what you can influence in the future. So that's something you can take on. If you are not able to make notes or you're not able to write down whatever we're talking right now, that's all right. I have a special handbook designed for you. I can email that off on a special request. All of you have my contacts, so you can write to me asking me for the handbook. And I've designed a concise, precise handbook of what we're talking about right now, giving you all the tips. You just need to have that on your soft copy to remind yourself of what we're talking about. We'll talk a little bit about positive reaffirmations and reinforcement. Reaffirmations are things that you keep telling again and again. Reinforcement is something that you want to do again and again, that you tell yourself again and again. These are some of the things that I would like you to tell yourself. I will let go, right? One of the biggest struggles you have is letting go. And I'm going to do a separate webinar sometime later on the art of letting go. I don't want to let go of my problem with somebody. I don't want to let go of my enmity with somebody. I don't want to let go of, the loss that I had, somebody that did. I don't want to let go of an ex who created a lot of a heartbreak for me. The art of letting go, when you learn to let that go, is when you will find peace. So tell yourself every day, I will forgive, I will let go. Not easy, but definitely possible, right? The other thing you have to say is, I will not worry about things I cannot control. What is the point of trying to think about the same things when you know that you cannot control that, right? The other thing, it is fine to make mistakes. Sometimes you beat yourself over. I beat myself over many hard things, the mistakes that I've done. Oh my God, what if I had done that better? Could I have had something more better? What if I had done, something in a different way? Could have that had a better results? Could I not lost money? What if I done, something good? Would my boss be happy about it? So it's fine to make mistakes. Just ensure you learn from those mistakes, right? And also believe in yourself that I have the power to create change in my life. Nobody is in charge of your life as much as you are. Nobody should be in charge of your life as much as you should be. One of the things I always like to tell people is, this too shall pass. Remember how many years you've survived. You're probably 20, 30, 40, whatever your age is at this point in time. You've survived all the difficult challenges in your life. You've survived all the difficult people in your life. So this too shall pass. Why do you think that this will not pass? And tell yourself more that you can do than I can't do. I have a lot of people, the first thing you tell them to do something, they'll be like, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I'm capable of doing that. And then you ask yourself, why do you underestimate your talent or your potential? You can be better than that. So the first thing you have to tell is, I'm not telling you, go reach for the stars. But when something comes your way, you should try and ask yourself, why should I say can't before I can? That's more of a practical way of looking at it. Right? So these are some of the positive affirmations that you probably have to tell your day every day. One thing though you have to just tell, these two things you really have to tell yourself is that I will not worry about things I cannot control, right? You cannot control about what's happening with the world right now, but you can control about what's happening within your house, within yourself, and within your mind to some extent. The other thing is definitely this too shall pass. I believe this will pass, and you got to believe it too. Now let's look at the 4 different aspects of stress. Stress, right? Stress causes physical problems, it causes mental problems, it causes behavioral problems, and it causes emotional problems. How do I know I'm suffering from physical stress? Heartbeats, you can identify your physical stress by heartbeats, by, when you have dizziness, you have palpitations, you have headaches, things like that. And this is also, sometimes how to identify anxiety, which I'll be covering in the next slide. Mentally, sometimes you think a lot, you worry about the same things, and you know that there's not much you can do about, and that's one problem that we have. And another thing you can look at is emotional behaviors: anger, frustration, right? Doing the same thing, getting frustrated about, oh my God, my life is so monotonous, I don't have anything interesting to look forward to. All of that. Less emotional intelligence. That's something you'll need to understand. I'll be talking about emotional intelligence towards the end of the webinar. Panicking emotionally. Some people panic over the smallest things. Some people can maintain a great deal of calm, even through difficult situations. But when you know that some kind of a news is affecting you, you got to cut that negativity off your life. You deserve better, right? When you know somebody is trying to deliberately make you scared, cut that negativity off your life. So what are the behavioral changes that we can do? We become less tolerant towards people. We don't want to socialize with people. We don't interact with people because we're stressed. We're under some kind of anxiety. Some people get into risk-taking behavior, taking risks, that is addictions. You tend to take more risks when you are stressed. So that's why you need to understand that when you are angry or stressed, the decisions you make are not the best of your decisions. Let's talk a little bit about anxiety. Stress and anxiety are very similar, right? Anxiety and depression is something we'll be talking about. Anxiety and depression are a deadly duo. They usually come in a combo, okay? And I'll tell you what anxiety and depression is just a little bit, why. The World Health Organization tells you that more than 264 million people who are registered with a lot of organizations, healthcare organizations, are actually under depression. And this is only people who have formally come out and told you that they are depressed. What is the feeling of depression? The feeling of depression is feeling sad. Sometimes you feel sad because there is a reason. Sometimes you feel sad because there is no reason. And that kind of depression is also dangerous. So we'll talk a little bit about that. When you Google, I just wanted you to say, probably what I do is a lot of research, a lot of reading, and what I share with you is a lot based on my experience. One of the things that you probably would do is Google everything out. So I've Googled this out. What is anxiety? Anxiety is your body's natural response to stress. So see, it says it's natural. It's a feeling of fear and apprehension about what's to come, what is going to happen. For example, the first day of a school, going to a job interview, giving a speech, or anything of that sort. What interested me though was, what is the best part of this is that anxiety is natural, right? Look at, I just highlighted that for you. Anxiety is your body's natural response. That means anxiety is natural, and that you don't have to feel bad if you're feeling anxious, but if you're continuously feeling anxious, you have got to do something about it. Let's understand anxiety and depression to some extent. Anxiety, what are the symptoms? So this is something you need to understand. What are the symptoms of anxiety and what is its impact? Symptoms of anxiety is restlessness, sweaty, rapid heart rate, weakness, fatigue, etc. What is its impact? The impact of anxiety is you have chronic physical conditions. You start experiencing a lot of physical problems. It can affect your heart. It can affect your immune system. This is some of the things that anxiety can cause. The other thing is, what is depression? Depression is feeling lonely, feeling insomnia, sleeplessness, right? People they don't get proper sleep because they're depressed many times. What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my job? What's going to happen to my family? Lower libido, your sexual life can be affected if you're depressed. You're not able to socialize with other people. These are some of the symptoms. You take to addictions, alcoholism, smoking, drug abuse, substance abuse. All of this is something that is caused because of depression. What is the impact? Many people have put on weight, or people lose weight during depression. Depends. It can go either way. Your immune system is weak. You tend to fall sick. Your routine of life gets affected. You don't want to socialize. These are all signs and impact of anxiety and depression. What I would ask you today is, ask yourself if you're going through any of these factors because of the current global situation. What is it that I can do? Maybe you can ask help. There's nothing wrong in asking help. Many people think that feeling sad or having to cry or having to talk about your feelings is not a healthy thing. We've been told many times that, you are a man, you cannot cry, or, you're supposed to be the stronger one. I don't even know who came up with this thing, but this is a huge generalization. I think this is a huge generalization of, of how people say that how men have to be more stronger and you can't show your emotions. Why is that? Why is that? That's not true at all. People can ask for help. You can cry. You can be expressive. Anybody can feel sad. We're all human beings. But when you want to ask for help, it's like, okay, I'm going through something that I cannot control. Let's say you're going through anxiety. Let's say you're going through a depressive phase in your life. You think you need help. Talk to somebody about it. Talk to the people who care about you the most. Sometimes you cannot talk to the people who care about you because they tend to judge you, right? So you want to talk to somebody who do not know much about your problems. So go to somebody who is probably a psychologist or a psychiatrist or somebody who can tell you, somebody who you look up to as a mentor, a favorite teacher from school or college, or some, a distant relative, or your best friend, or your friend, somebody who you look up to, an ex-boss you probably worked with who can understand your problems and, give you solutions. It's okay to ask for help, but these are the symptoms, right? So now you know what are the symptoms and what are the things that you need to ask for help. So various people have various ways and intensities. The questions you need to ask yourself during anxiety or when you are feeling hopeless. Do I constantly think about my issues again and again? Ask yourself that. Do I feel like I don't have anything left? Life does not have a purpose anymore. Do I feel like the world has come to an end? There's no hope left for all of us. Conspiracy theories, countries attacking countries. The world is going to come to an end, bro. I mean, a lot of things that people keep talking, right? Is there any hope left for all of us? That's something you need to ask yourself. Do I feel like crying over issues, and do I remain sad all the time, or do I find a way to snap out of my issues? So that's something you need to ask yourself. Do I constantly get irritated? Do the small things irritate me? Do the things that people do even on a good day irritate me? Then there's something wrong. These are some of the signs of getting to borderline, I would say either anxiety or depression. There's something called the Penn State Worry Questionnaire. Okay, the Penn State Worry Questionnaire was developed by a person called Mayer, where the person said, if you were going through something that worries you, how do you know that something worries you? Now, this is something I will not be going through in detail, but I will be willing to share this. You can also Google this out. It's out there on the internet. It gives you an aspect to tell you, it gives you an insight and to tell you what is it that this question is all about. And this is how it looks. It's called the Penn State Worry Questionnaire. It's called the PSWQ. Unfortunately, I can't be going through the analysis as well, but there is a scoring pattern which tells you how to analyze whether you are, worrying about yourself or the situation. Like, for example, let's look at the first question. If I do not have enough time to do everything, I do not worry about it. Now, you've got to rate yourself on this. Not all the time, or very typical of me, right? Now, this is something that you'll have to look at yourself. Let's look at probably number 3. I do not tend to worry about things. Ask yourself, not at all typical of me or very typical of me. I do not tend means I don't worry much about things. So things like that. So you have to look at the questionnaire that you are looking at right now. Okay, I'm going to stop share over here. 1 second. Okay, so I hope I'm actually able to take you through this and you're able to see everything that I'm sharing with you. So you can Google the Penn State Worry Questionnaire and you will probably see if you are able to access that. I'm going to share the screen with you once again to the presentation. All right. Many people talk about being positive. Oh, wake up positive. I said that's the same thing too. But there's one thing that people don't tell you, that, you know what, is it okay to be negative? I don't know how many of you feel that it's okay to be negative, but is it okay to not be okay? Right? I think, guess what? It's absolutely okay to not be okay. Right? It's absolutely okay to not be okay. Because you're human. You're not a machine that you wake up every day and feel positive and good about yourself and say, hey, I'm going to seize the day. Carpe diem. No, it's not. It doesn't work that way. If you're a human being, you're built with emotions. You're built with positive emotions. You're built with negative emotions. But now you have to choose. What are those emotions that you want to nurture? What are the emotions that you want to feed into? And that's what is going to make a difference. So if you ask me, is it okay to not be okay? Yeah, it's okay. It's absolutely okay. But just don't be in that phase. See how you can be okay very fast. Do not revel in your negativity. How can I manage this? What is it that I can do? The first thing I tell people is acceptance, acceptance, acceptance. If you can't accept, right? If you can't accept what is in front of you, the reality, that's going to affect you a lot. Because people who get affected a lot by anxiety and depression are the people who can't come to terms with the reality. It's not easy, but every day, it's a work in progress. Every day you tell yourself that this is not under my control, but what is under my control? Let me accept the reality. If the reality is that you can't step out of your house for the next 45 days, then that's the reality. Is that something you can do about? There's not much you can do about other than defy the law or the rules that your country has laid out for you. But what you can do is to stay within and see how you can utilize that time to be more productive. That's something you can control. That book you wanted to be reading for a long time, get your hands on that. That hobby you know you were good at, you couldn't develop that. You could work on that. That friend you haven't kept in touch with since college, get in touch with that friend. So there are things you can utilize this time for. Find a way to utilize this time, right? What's the next thing? Understand that you are not alone in the situation. Whether it's the global situation right now, whether it's a situation in your house, you are not the only one who's going through it. We all have problems and we all find ways to deal with our problems. And we all think that we will be out of this problem one day. So you got to help yourself that way. You got to be easy on yourself. You got to tell yourself this too will pass, right? Like I told you, if you've even had lunch this afternoon and you've come on this webinar, you are one of the people that are very privileged right now. Because there are many people that do not even have this privilege. The privilege of getting on social media, the privilege of a smartphone, laptop, internet, the privilege of not having to think about what dinner is going to be tonight. That is definitely a privilege. One thing I share with all my trainees or people who come into my webinars or seminars, I tell them there's something called self-talk, right? What is self-talk? Self-talk is nothing but talking to yourself. You need to understand that talking to yourself directly deals with the subconscious mind. Communicate with yourself. One of the things that a communication specialist will tell you that when you know you can talk to yourself with confidence, that means you're a great communicator. And by that, I don't really mean go out and stand on the road and talk to yourself. But Talk to yourself when you're alone. Talk to yourself when you're in the shower. Talk to yourself when you are meditating. Talk to yourself when you are in your room. You can do that anytime you want to. Ask yourself, what can I do better? What can I do to make the situation better? What can I do to be a better person? That kind of an introspection is very important. For a long time in my life, I actually struggled with, taking feedback from people on my weaknesses or what I could be better about. But then slowly I realized that if I don't take the feedback of what the people who are close to me are going to be telling me about, there's going to be a day I'm going to be really regretting when no one will be left around me to give that feedback. And when that realization actually set in, is when I allowed myself to change. I would sit in a quiet, I would not probably tell people, yes, I was wrong, but I would go back and I would sit by myself for about 10 minutes and ask myself, was I really wrong? Did I say something that could have been probably better? A lot of times people tell me I raise my voice because, the tone of my voice, like you can see, is probably very loud. And one thing that people tell me is that I raise my voice even when it's not required. And then I understand that it's a subconscious thing, but I have to work through it consciously. So that's the difference, my friends. So if you are in a state where you are also going through situations like me, where you've not been able to take, constructive feedback on what your boss is telling you or what your loved one is telling you, then I think it's time you change yourself, right? You have to remember that talking to yourself and taking feedback is important. What more can I do? Right. Start with your things that you have made promises to yourself. Start with a good eating habit. I know you're at home and I know this is the time you really can't go back to that diet, whatever the diet that could be, from keto to whatever that you're following. You're not probably able to go to that diet, your dietary habit right now, but what you can do is try and cut down on junk food. That necessity of wanting to eat something that, cut down on that. Because eating healthy is a principle in itself. All right. So try to eat more healthy. It keeps your physical, body going on. You probably don't want to add those kilos by the time, your lockdown's open and you're going to go out into the world. You probably want to be, in a better shape as well. Adopt a form of physical exercise. It's very important to have a form of physical exercise and some kind of exercise. People say, oh, I have to hit the gym, or no, some people subscribe to yoga. Some people subscribe to a lot of things, but physical activity is just generally anything, just getting your body out there and doing some kind of an activity where you sweat and where exercise plays a very important role. Now, one of the videos I've seen online was by a lady called Wendy Suzuki. She happens to be a neuroscientist from the New York University. You can YouTube her video. I've got her link on the presentation, but I've also tested this and I am afraid that if I play the video, it's going to, your Zoom will not be able to cope up with the speed of the video. So I'm going to avoid playing that video, but I will be happy to share that link over email, or you can take down, you can even take a screenshot right now on your screen, on your mobile phones, and you can look for the link of this person called Wendy Suzuki, who's probably telling you what is the effect of exercise on your brain. It's an amazing video, and she explains to you how each of these hormones, why there's an adrenaline rush, why is a serotonin, and all of the hormones that act on your brain get get an activity, and why that plays an important role when you're going through a phase of feeling low. Exercise is one thing that you can resort to. The other thing I tell people is also write a diary or a reflection journal. When you are going through some kind of a problem, when you know that you have to work through something, the best thing is probably writing it down somewhere that can remind you, right? Now, it is important for people to be reminded about what are the things they're going through. And I have based this, I've also derived a format. It's called the thought log format. Okay, now I got this thought log format from, my friend and psychiatrist. It's based on cognitive behavior therapy. This format tells you that there are 3 columns on your thought log. Okay, if you can see this, there's a Word document I'm sharing with you at this point. There's an event, there's a feeling column, and there's a thought column, right? Now, this is simple psychology. You don't have to get into the nitty-gritties. You don't have to get into the technicalities of how we've come up with this. But the first column is an event. Is an event. What happened? What is an event? Or what is happening in your life right now? What is it? What is causing this problem? It could be any event, overwhelming, can be explained. You don't have to give a big description over here. If you look at the second row, I've given you an example. It could be an argument. It could just be an argument you had. Sorry, it's an argument that we've had with anybody, your loved one, your colleague, etc. The second column is a feeling column, where you probably are going to be writing what kind of feelings came out of this when this event happened. Angry, sad, frustrated, irritated, so on and so forth, right? You can look at the third column, which is a thought column. Ask your feelings. If this feeling has happened in my mind, or if I'm going through this kind of a feeling in my mind, what is it that the worst can happen? Is it possible? If this happens, what are going to be the consequences? What does it say about me? Right? Or is there another explanation to why this event happened? Because sometimes we look at things, in a very narrow-minded view of that, and then we don't see what is the larger picture. So you can ask yourself, is there any other explanation to this? So this is called as a log format. I'm sure my friends on the webinar who are psychologists are aware of this, which we use. And then you look at it, you write it, and you analyze it. You write, what is the event? What is the feeling? And what are the thoughts you went through at that point in time? This is based on something we call a CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. And I'm going to close that. We go back to our presentation. Right? So there are links to all of this, and I'll be happy to share them with you. What I'd like to tell you is that we started our webinar a little late, about 20-25 minutes late. But I will wind this up as soon as possible because I told you it's 2 hours. But since we started late, I'm going to take a little more of extra time. And I really hope you don't mind taking this extra time. So ask yourself, now let's go back to what can I do? How can I manage myself, right? So here we go. What more can I do? Surround yourself by people that are positive, right? One thing that we often don't do is we entangle ourselves not only in negative situations, but we also surround ourselves with people who are negative. When somebody shouts at you, you want to shout back. When somebody is gossiping, you're very interested in asking, oh, what's happening? You know, I'm still going to work. I mean, we don't have a full lockdown in the country that I'm at. And when we go to work, you know, obviously there are discussions that come up about the situations that are happening. And everybody comes up with their, version of a news article. Oh, do you know what happened in Italy? Or do you know what happened in India or China or Iran or the United States? It's just so overwhelming. And I've told my colleagues, you know, I don't want to talk about this. You guys want to talk about it? It's fine. But please excuse me, I'm not going to stand and talk about this. And I don't want to forward articles to you that also talk about this because I'm not really sure anymore which article is correct, which news is correct. I don't really know who to trust and who not to trust. So let's not talk about this. Let's talk about what we have to do for today. Let's talk about what we're going to do once the situation gets back to normal. Yeah. What are our plans thereafter? Let's talk about the business. I try to divert people's attention and not get entangled with this. Many people have a cheap thrill getting into gossips, right? You know of your colleagues who probably will stand in the smoking zone and talk bad about you. And that gives them a cheap thrill. And many times, you know what? We do it ourselves too. We don't realize what we're doing and we do it ourselves. And that's not the best place to be in. But I would say avoid negativity, avoid negative conversations, avoid spreading fake news. We spoke about that. Sometimes just, sending those good morning messages. About a year ago, I read an article that said uh, Indian servers are clogged because Indians are busy sending good morning messages to each other every single morning. Okay. And every single morning, I had these people, these WhatsApp groups that send you good morning message with a positive quote. The intent is right. It's great, right? But did that practically make a difference to me? I always felt like, no, I don't think this good morning message is something that is going to make my day completely good. But if I really see what is written on that and get into it, maybe it'll make a difference. But do I have the time to do that? And then I told my mom, you know what? I would rather prefer you wishing me good morning every day through a message, just saying good morning rather than forwarding somebody else's good morning message to me, because it is so mechanical. And my mom understood what I was trying to say. The point I'm trying to do is today, just reading motivational quotes or just motivation books or reading a good morning message might not really help you go a long way. The intent could be right, but it's not necessary that it's going to help you go a long way. So what do we need to do? We have to take into control the situation of our own mind. There's no harm in going through good morning messages, but are you able to practice what is written in that? A lot of the times I get messages of Lord Buddha, and I just think the same people who are forwarding the messages of Lord Buddha are the people last week who sent me a hate article about another country or about another religion or about another race, and it's just, I'm just trying to ask myself, if you could practice this in your own life, it would be so much more better rather than just forwarding these messages to other people. So let's look at what we can do more practically as human beings than just looking at, things that are probably given to us as messages from everywhere. One of the things that we don't do every day is expressing our emotions. When was the last time you told your parents, I love you? When was the last time you told your spouse or your partner, I love you? When was the last time you told your children you love them? When was the last time you told your best friend that you didn't like what happened the other day and you want to bury the situation? It's about time we talk about our emotions, right? It's about time you tell people that, listen, I think our relationship can be great if we only knew how not to hurt each other. It's very important to express those emotions. If you've not told people that you love them in a long time, then I think it's time to go and tell them. If you've not showed them that you care, it's good to show them. A simple thank you note to your partner who's making food for you every day will make her day or his day so great. When was the last time you said thank you for the beautiful food you've given me today on my table to the person who did that? Right? When was the last time you said, oh my God, I am so blessed to have you in my life, because what I have, it's so good to have this. So people are looking for that acknowledgement. People are looking for that appreciation. Express those positive emotions, because that's very important. What are the things that I should not be doing on? Probably don't get frustrated. Try to control your frustration. When negativity, they say, is contagious, right? Simple things, simple things can affect us. And when we get affected, we show that frustration on somebody else. And that becomes a chain. It's a connected, it's a reaction that's like a connected chain. A chain of reactions. That was exactly what I was looking for. So basically what happens is that when you are negative, you take it out on somebody else, and that person is not able to take it, and they take it out on you or somebody else, and then this goes on and on. Sometimes a simple queue in the supermarket can irritate you, right? People are hoarding toilet rolls. And if you've seen those videos online in the beginning of the crisis, people are trying to buy toilet rolls across, and nobody knew what they were doing, why they were doing it. And the simple fact is that there was no reason. It was just people are trying to hoard supplies. And how that frustrated everybody. The number of fights and videos that I saw was just so appalling, right? So what I'm trying to say is that don't get your frustrated. And if you're able to control your frustration, that means you are a person who are able to control your emotions. You know how to find a way to do that. The other thing I tell people is, rather than engaging a lot just over on social media, why don't you find yourself a hobby that will probably, open up your mind a little bit? Use social media the right way. Probably read the articles that will open up your mind. Read the articles that gives you more positivity. Or develop that hobby. I mean, I had a lot of hobbies before I started getting into the corporate career. A lot of that faded off. And now I think, ask myself, maybe this is the time to, kind of revisit those hobbies. The other thing you should not be doing, do not panic. I see a lot of things that are, and people get very panicky. For example, my parents are old, they're sick, and they're also probably, I mean, they're not in the same country that I'm living in right now. And the first time when the crisis hit, and my mother was reading a lot of news, and the first 2-3 days she tried not to ask me, but later on she called me and she said, how is the situation out there, and if there's is everything okay? I feel very, very scared when I think about the fact that there are so many people affected and what's going to happen. Are you okay? Would you be able to come back home? Is this what is going to happen? And I said, listen, I mean, we have seen so many problems in our lives. This will pass. I mean, don't get so panicky, and I will tell you what can be done. So I try to calm my mother down a little bit. Obviously, when we all grow old, we get a little worried about the things. So the thing that I told them was that do not get worried. All right. There have been such situations in the world before. We have overcome this, so do not panic. And I told my mother, please do not forward any news to me that is given to you by the WhatsApp family groups or some fake news or something that people are spreading around. Please do not send it to me, because a lot of what you're sending to me is not true. Okay, so I told my mother, do not send this to other people as well. And I also told her, don't panic, because you're panicking because the whole day you're just reading the same news on social media. Cut yourself off. Mom, you used to do knitting. Why don't you go and do some knitting around right now? Why don't you go and get glued to the television, just watch those, those soaps or dramas or teleserials that you are very interested in, right? So I tell her these kind of things. So the one way that you should not do, the one thing that you shouldn't do is don't panic, and don't let the other people panic around you. When you are feeling low, once again, I'll tell you that when you are worried, you're not alone. You're definitely not alone. The world is here in with you right now. And if you're thinking sitting back in your houses behind your laptops, what's it going to be like tomorrow? What is it going to be like next month? Am I going to come out of this? Am I going to hold on to my job? This year, a lot of us lost out on increments, bonuses. In fact, a lot of us are taking pay cuts, and the kind of situations we're going through is not easy. But one thing I'll tell you is that you are not alone. And if you are still here, you are privileged. Sometimes we don't say no to others, right? One of the things that we do is, if you're a people pleaser, you want to say yes to everybody. You want to make everybody happy. I always tell people, you cannot make everyone every time happy. That's impossible. If you're going to always wanting to make people happy, then the person who's going to remain unhappy is you. So that's why sometimes you've got to say no to people. And a lot of us find it difficult to say no. A lot of us find it difficult to say no to a difficult boss. We find it difficult to say no to our families. We find it difficult to say no to our spouses and partners. We find it difficult to say no to your child, which is probably standing there and crying and saying, I want that expensive toy. You find it so hard to say no to the people that matter to you, or the people that you are obligated to. But not saying no is only going to make you more unhappy. How do I say, you think that, oh, I'm going to be happy by doing all of this? I know a lot of people who say, yes, they go out of their way, they do things. And when I ask them, put your hand across your chest and say, are you happy when you are buying something so expensive and giving your spouse just because you had a misunderstanding? Or just because you're buying an expensive toy for your child, or just because you're taking on 3 projects in your work and working for 18 hours a day to please a boss who's never going to be happy with you? How are you going to say no? Right? When do you say no? If you don't say no, you're going to be unhappy, you're going to be stressed, you're going to feel anxious, and then you're going to come back home and say, oh my God, I am not happy with what I'm doing. So the one thing that you have to understand is that, how do I say no, and when do I say no? It involves a lot of talent, or tact, as we call it. Diplomacy, that means you have to be very diplomatic. And when you say no, people can get hurt. So how am I going to say that no to people? Or is it even right to tell people no? That's something you have to ask. We say be assertive and not aggressive. Assertive is an art of being more careful with people's emotions, but yet making your point without having to be rude or arrogant. Aggression can be, fighting against something with a lot of rudeness and probably shouting, etc., etc., as part of being aggressive. So assertive is the key. The first thing I tell people while having to say no, set your boundaries. The way you have to tell no people is, this is where it stops. I can't do more than what I'm doing. This is what I'm capable of. You've got to accept what is coming your way. So do not ask for more than this. If you have that person sitting in your office talking about your personal life, you have to tell the person, you know what? I don't think I want to discuss about this right now. Can we talk about this later? Because I'm not in the right frame of mind to talk about it. Somebody wants to talk and judge you all the time. How do I get out of it? You are the only person who can set the boundaries. You are the only person who can tell that person, listen, I don't want to be the part of discussion today. I don't want to be bullied today. Or I don't want to do this for you because I think this is going to cost me an entire lifetime. So set your boundaries, but do that in a very polite or a diplomatic way. By being nice, you can use nice words and tell them, I don't appreciate this. So can we stop having these kind of demands? Sometimes you got to offer alternatives, right? You might have to, somebody's asking you for something very expensive and you don't have the means to do it right now. So you can tell them, listen, I can get you something, but it might not be exactly what you want. I'll give you an alternative, right? When you want to say no, you don't say no without an alternative. This is a simple, fundamental thing I teach people about in customer service. When you say no, you got to have a tact of saying no. It's very important the way you say no to people. Ask yourself, are you a people pleaser? Many times what happens is we end up wanting to please people all around and remain unhappy. I've already discussed that, so I'm not going to ask you that. The other thing I want to ask you is, do you overcommit or do you overpromise people? Many times what do, you promise, but you can't deliver. You set high expectations, you can't keep up to them. You find it so hard to do that. You struggle, you strive, you put yourself, under the bus to do something for somebody. And all you get is probably, appreciation. The other thing is, you know what you're capable of doing. So why do you overpromise? If you've promised your child that you're going to, get that expensive PlayStation next month and you're not able to do it, then that's a mistake you did. Because you did not probably teach your child what would be the struggle to get that PlayStation there and have fun. Or probably you said something that you cannot keep up to, and now you're struggling to do that. Because your mind says, no, it's not okay to do that, but your heart says, let's go ahead and do it. These are struggles we face every day, conflicts. But these are some of the ways why we can't say no and how to say no. So don't overcome it. Don't try to make everybody happy all the time, because you cannot do that. And try to offer alternatives and set your boundaries with people, because people should know that if I do this, you're going to get upset. So I should not do this. Let's look a little bit about priority. One of the things that I tell people is that it's not time that you have to manage your priorities. You get stressed all the time because you don't know where your priorities are. I asked this exercise in priority management. I asked them, people, why don't you list what is the most important thing in your life? But 80% of them will come back saying, my family. Some of them come back and saying my job. Some of them come back saying my spouse, etc., whatever. That could be more important. And then on the right side, I asked them to say, how much time do you spend on these things? And then they end up realizing that the most important thing is not where you're spending all your time on. You're actually spending your time on things that don't matter to you many times, but you're saying something and you're doing something else. If you're spending 18 hours in your job, or if you're spending 15 hours working and you have no time for your family, but you say your family is more important to you, or I have to pay the bills, I have to take care of them. Yeah, but how are you trying to balance that? If you think your relationship is more important to you, are you actually investing time, money, efforts that take for you to be in a successful relationship? Ask yourself that question. Now let's look at the slide that I have with you. Have you been able to do justice the list of priorities you have? What is stopping you from giving importance to the things that actually matter to you? Are you actually taking on more that you can handle many times? Physically, emotionally, financially, professionally. Are you taking more than you can handle? Do you give into social emotional pressures? Right? Oh, you have to probably get married because somebody asked you to do so. Right? Or you have to have an elaborate wedding because my uncle said that if I don't have that wedding, the reputation of my family is going to go down. So I end up borrowing more loans on the marriage that I need to have than spending on my career or growth or development. Are you worried about pleasing people all the time? Is somebody emotionally blackmailing you? Why are your priorities not in place? These are some of the reasons why you can't get your priorities right. So coming towards the end of what I want to share with you, there's something called self-awareness. What is self-awareness? We all have value systems. Value systems are nothing but we all believe on something which is right and we believe in something which is wrong. But sometimes we end up doing the wrong things to please others and we don't know what we are doing. Sometimes we end up having emotions that are fake and we don't know what we're doing. So these are not aligned to what you believe. So what you need to do is have a great deal of, or have some kind of an awareness of who you are, of how you want to align yourself in these kind of values, who you are, when do you respond, how do other people see you. This is called self-awareness. It is also the ability to understand your own character. You need to know whether I'm right, I'm wrong in what I'm doing. You need to be able to judge yourself if I am doing the right thing, right? When you are doing something against your colleague in the office and you know that is wrong, when you go to a boss and backbite about your teammate, you know it is wrong, but you continue doing that. So there's no self-awareness of what you're doing because you know what you're doing is wrong, but yet you continue doing that. That is a problem we face. Because we know that it is wrong and we do that again. We know it is wrong to hate. We know it is wrong to discriminate, but we end up doing what we know and what we do not believe in. And that is why we do not find ourselves aligned to our values. That means you don't know what you're doing from within yourself. You know it's wrong, but you're not able to you do not have control over what you're doing. But that is when you're not aware of yourself. People who are self-aware will not do these things. They will try to do the things that they believe in the right manner, having integrity, being transparent, not having to backbite, not having to put people down, not having to spread negativity, or all of that is something that when you are aware of who you are, right? So that is important. Emotional intelligence or emotional quotient. A lot of people used to test your intelligent quotient when you used to go for job applications. We do a lot of psychometric tests. We do aptitude tests. I don't know how many of you have been through these tests. I'm part of HR. I know that we do a lot of these things. We do a lot of assessments. But the one thing that people don't really judge you is how emotionally aware you are. How are you capable of understanding other people's emotions? Are you able to recognize other people's emotions? That is also part of self-awareness. And I'm going to come to the next slide immediately. Self-awareness is a great tool. When you're aware of who you are, you're able to build relationships. You're able to build relationships with other people in a very, very effective manner. The last part that I want to talk about today is emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? When you are able to understand and perceive what are the feelings of other people. If I do this, a person will be happy. If you are able to identify at a certain point that somebody is happy right now, somebody is sad right now, somebody is angry. So the different emotions, this is called as able to perceive emotions accurately. It's also about using the emotions. When you identify these emotions, what do? Right? So you identify these emotions and you know how this person is going to react. So you have to react. If you know how this person is going to react, you should be able to control your emotions. Sometimes when you throw in a surprise, you want people to be happy. And when people have thrown me a surprise and I've not really been very happy, it has disappointed a lot of them. And I was not very emotionally intelligent probably at that time to probably make other people feel happy. So I was I was looking into myself and asking, what is it that I can make make the situation better? And then started working, trying to be more aware of other people's emotions. The other aspect of being emotionally aware or intelligent is managing the emotions within the self. If you know that you are a person who's probably getting angry or getting frustrated about certain things, you know that that is something that is going to upset you, and you know how to work through it. And if you don't know how to work through it, then you're still not emotionally intelligent. You're not out there, right? The ability to understand the intensity of emotions. How angry will somebody be if I do this? How happy will somebody be if I do this? How disappointed will someone be if I do this? These are some of the things that emotionally intelligent people do. And act according to that and not let people down. And that's more important, right? So this is something about being emotionally intelligent or aware of other people's emotions. So the last part, or the last slide rather, that I have, is something I use as a serenity prayer. The serenity prayer is nothing but accepting yourself and telling, if you believe in God, you can use this prayer, or you can just pray to yourself. If you don't, the choice is yours. This prayer is online, you can find this. It says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Serenity means the calmness, the acceptance of the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can. That means I need to be bold enough, I need to have the courage, I need to be brave enough to change the things I can about what I can do, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? So grant me serenity, the calmness, that there are things that I cannot change. It's going to be what it is. But there are things that I can change, and give me the courage to change these things. And also give me the wisdom to understand the difference between what I can change and what I cannot change, because that then will give me the peace and happiness that I require in my mind. So whatever situation you are in today, right? Just remind yourself that if you have the serenity to accept that this is something that you cannot change yourself, it's probably going to take the world to change what it is. But there are things that you can change about the way you feel, about what you do on social media, about how you can express the love to your loved ones, or how you can be more positive in this time. So take courage in doing that, and be wise enough to understand what you can change and what you cannot change. So this is called as a serenity prayer, right? Now we've almost come to the end and the close of what I wanted to share with you. And yeah, and this is probably what we've gone through in understanding. I'll probably take you through a quick recap of whatever we've discussed. And if you have any questions, you're going to have to come back on the chat box and type chat. I know you've been typing things, but we can start chatting off in about the next couple of minutes. The first thing that I shared with you today is how do you start your day, right? Try to keep the previous night, sleep well. Do not things that will cause you sleeplessness. Keep yourself positive. Avoid negativity bias. Human beings are mostly leaning towards the negativity. We got to ensure that we do not, dwell on that. Then I told you about that. I did discuss with you the 10th apple effect and the attitude of gratitude, right? Develop an attitude of being thankful, so you can be thankful for what you have, and what do I complain about for what I don't have, right? And consider yourself privileged. I gave you an example of the 10th apple story, diminishing marginal utility, of how you can be thankful when you're really hungry, you're really happy to what you have, but when you're not, you're not as much as grateful. One of the important things we did speak about is the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, how the subconscious mind is built into the conscious mind, and how you need to understand that if you want to actually control your conscious mind, you have to first get through into your subconscious mind. Excuse me. So basically what you can do is talk to yourself, talk the positive things, because your subconscious mind is inside. It absorbs everything and throws it back to you. That's why conscious mind is the thoughts, while the subconscious mind is about dreams and the things that you think about in the night. This is not under your control, but it absorbs everything that you tell yourself throughout the day. So be careful about what you share. The other thing is understanding that stress is natural. Stress is all about the demands of life and learning to manage the demands of life. Stress is also natural. It has been there ever since man has been protecting himself and surviving himself. You need to manage yourself. And not all stress is negative. Some amount of stress and anxiety can help you to go forward. It pushes you in life. We spoke about the body and mind. What are the causes of stress? Personal life, changes, drastic changes in life, money, work. It could be anything else, other things, natural causes. We also spoke about what is the meaning of being healthy, the well-being, the natural state of well-being, the 5 important takeaways, the 5 important aspects of staying healthy. We spoke about that. What promises, what do you tell people, what do you tell yourself? We spoke about that. What are the words? Words make an impact. What are the words you tell yourself that will make an impact? Positive reaffirmations, positive affirmations. I gave you a little bit of things which you can focus on here. One of the things that I do not worry about the things I cannot control, right? I don't want to, or rather I shouldn't be. The other thing is this too shall pass. There's a beautiful poem you can actually look it up. It's written by Helen Steiner Rice. It's called This Too Shall Pass. And it's a beautiful poem. I can even share it with you if you want to at some point. It tells you that everything will pass off. The impact of stress and its bearing on our physical well-being, mental well-being, emotional and behavioral. Physically, you find you're not all right, you have headaches. Many times stress, anxiety creates this kind of a feeling. Mentally, you're of course thinking about it. We call this as over-analyzing, overthinking, being critical about yourself and harsh on yourself. Emotionally, you are angry many times. You're angry at yourself. You take that anger out on others. You create a chain of reactions. You're robotic. You have no interest in life many times. Behavior, you're less tolerant. You try to provoke arguments. You like to get into arguments. You're stressed. You stress eat. I don't know how many of you eat when you're stressed. I do that many times. I like to switch over to desserts or chocolates, which is like really bad, but that's stress eating or stress binging. And then I think, oh my God, next day I'm not, enthusiastic enough to go and hit the gym, and that's another problem. Anyway, anxiety and depression is natural. Understand that everybody goes through it. It's on the internet if you want to Google it. What else did we speak about? Impacts of anxiety and what are the symptoms of anxiety and depression? Depression is feeling sad either because of a trigger, or depression is feeling sad because something is a long process in your life. Probably sometimes you have a breakup, you're still feeling depressed about it. Somebody is probably far away from you, you're feeling depressed about it. There are many triggers, and sometimes depression is just a biological thing. It happens in your brain. You just need to know when you need to ask for help. And asking for help is not a problem at all. Nobody is too masculine to express himself. Nobody becomes too feminine if they do that. These are all things that people have put into our minds. Expressing your emotions is very good. In fact, a lot of people like it when you express feelings and emotions. If you're constantly sad, or if you want to ask yourself, why am I, doing things, thinking about issues, I feel there's no hope left, there's continuous irritation, then there is something that is not all right in your mind. And that's something that you have to talk about with people that you are close to. You can go to a therapist, you can have a counselor in your school, you can have a psychologist, you can talk to anybody you are comfortable with. I also introduced the Penn State Worry Questionnaire. I showed you a glimpse of it. Now, if you're really interested in it, you're going to have to drop me a message so I can either transfer all the files to you, or I can send them across to you, which I've developed the last couple of weeks for this webinar. Well, if you're not okay in your mind, you're going through a lot of negative things in your mind, you're not alone. And guess what? It's absolutely normal. There's nothing called abnormal about it. You can go through it. It's completely okay. But the one thing that you have to see is, how can I come out of it? Find ways to come out of it. We also spoke about how I can manage stress. The first thing is accepting the reality. I'm connecting this even with the serenity prayer, accepting the reality. It's very important to accept the reality. It's also important that you consider yourself privileged for whatever you have, and think about the positive things. Again, in connection to what we've spoken earlier, be grateful. I told you about talking to yourself, the art of self-talk. Again, connecting in line with your subconscious mind, how to talk to yourself, how to talk to your subconscious mind. You can talk about to yourself in a room, in the loo in the morning, or you can talk about it when you're watching, you can talk to yourself when you're watching your favorite TV show. I don't know. You can talk about it at any point you want to, right? What more can I do? Do not get involved in negativity, but develop good habits. Develop an exercise format. Do not give up on it. Have a nutritious, healthy eating habit. That's important. What more can I do? Do not spread fake news. Surround yourself by people who are positive. Ensure that you have positive emotions all the time. And when you are feeling negative, find ways to come out of it. What more should I be doing? Find an alternative to a hobby, a game. Do not panic. Somebody's panicking. Be of comfort for them. Do not let people to be in that negative, and tell people they're not alone. You're not alone. We're all in this together. Sometimes you can be stressed because you don't know how to say no. You got to set your boundaries. You got to offer alternatives. Do not please people all the time. You can't please everybody every time. You need to come to terms with that. Do not make promises you cannot keep. You make promises, you got to keep to them. So ensure you do not make promises that you cannot keep. And that's one reason we all end up being stressed, is because you overcommit and then you don't know what to do. Priorities. Make a list of the things that matter to you and find a way to do that, and see how you can spend time on what actually matters to you, rather than spending time on something that doesn't matter and then having to then probably regret on what you're doing. So the other thing is awareness of the self and emotional intelligence. So we spoke a lot about these things, and be aware of yourself and emotionally aware of what is going on. I'm sorry I had to extend the webinar because we had started late. We were waiting for participants to join in, but I promise the next time you join me, I'm going to keep it to time. So yes, so I'm going to now probably stop our screen share and let's go to our chat box. Okay, so if you want to raise a question, you're going to have to probably raise your hand. A lot of you are not on video, but you have a raise hand option on your screen down. And people, for those who are thinking it's time consuming, you want to leave, you're welcome to leave. I have people messaging me right now. I'm going to read out some of the messages that have been on the chat. Yeah, so people have been asking for presentations and the handbook. Yes, I'm going to be sharing a clip, or I'm going to share a concise version of the presentation to you on your emails. I do have your emails, but you're going to have to drop me a WhatsApp message from where I messaged you, or you can drop me an email from where I dropped you an email yesterday, and that's important. Yes, thank you, Ashish, for letting us know it's okay to not be okay. It's absolutely okay to be not okay. Realization is the first step to transformation. Masala Mani told us that. Thank you, Mani, for that, for your inputs. Right? So, video to be shared. Jahangir, I will share the video with you. Please bear with me. I will share the video with you. Thank you for all the positive things people have been writing on the chat box. It's a great habit to be able to tell our loved ones, yes, thank you. Sorry. Okay. Hello? Yes. So does anybody have a question that you wanted to ask? Or we could probably close, we could call this a day and come close to the webinar. And I would like to thank a few people who've been, very helpful. I think Mohammed Fazal, you have a question. Mohammed Fazal, are you there? Okay, I think he's not. Okay, if you don't have any questions, then it's been great having you here. And a lot of people did stick around. Some of them have left in the due course. And thank you for your support of being here. I would take the pleasure of thanking all the people who have been supportive. Hi, Mohammed Fazal, you have a question?
No, sir. No, sir. I just thank you for the information, sir. It was really good.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You can write to me if you have anything that you want to ask. That's brilliant.
Of course, I have.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody. I would like to thank Mustafa Faizi and Aditya Iyer for being part of this great presentation, and all my friends and family members who've been great to help me out on a personal level on this webinar. So thank you, everybody. And thank you for all of the people from India, from UAE and Bahrain, the 3 countries where I had actually targeted for being on the webinar. A lot of you are still there, and I really appreciate your support and for coming on the webinar. Please write to me, and I will share with you the files that I've prepared for you on WeTransfer, but I will do it only for the people who've asked for, because I don't want to send it as a bulk. It loses the value or the niche of what we've done together today. And what I would like for you to understand is that just stay positive. This too will pass. This too shall pass. And I don't want to repeat myself again, but try to be more confident in what you're doing. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, you're going to have to hand raise. I think some of you are writing, but we're going to have to close this. Some of you, so Syed Ismail, your question is, if you're kind, and how do you if people take advantage of you, how can I say no? You can always be kind, but if you have to be assertive, remember one thing, that don't let people to take advantage of your kindness, right? It's okay to be kind, because we all need to be kind. And it's a very difficult gesture. Trust me, in today's world, to be kind is one of the biggest things. But if you can be kind, that's great. But do not let people to take you for granted. So when you are kind, you also have to tell people that I am kind to you because I've made the choice. But you know that I am capable of not being kind as well. But I've made the choice to be kind to you. So therefore, I want you to know that I'm being a nice person to you, and I'm letting this go. And if you don't want to say a no to someone abruptly, the best thing to tell them is to talk to them in private. You can always tell them, listen, I want to talk to you in private. Step out of the office, step out of the house, step out of the room, go to a different place and tell them, listen, what you did was something I did not like. Talk to them that way. Or you can tell them that the next time this comes up, I think I will not be very positive in my reactions. So things like that. But staying kind is very important. It's very important, from a perspective that you do not lose your identity, that you remain a kind person again and again. All right. So I feel that we should probably come to a close. And thank you for the session. Thank you for joining us here. Thank you for all of you guys. Until I see you again, and for the next webinar, we will keep you informed. And if you're interested, please follow me on my Facebook page. I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter and YouTube. You can subscribe to the videos. This webinar will go live on YouTube as well, and you can share it with everybody. But I really hope that you've enjoyed your time with me. Since a lot of people do not have a lot of questions, I'm going to sign off now, and thank you for your time. All right. Stay great and stay positive, and I'm sure we will all come out of this. And when we do, we will come back together and say hello to each other again. Thank you all for joining me today. Have a great evening.